introduce Mr. Shabbir Kanchwala, Principal at the Global Network for Zero, who is an established sustainability leader and a revivalist for green causes. Shabbir has 3 decades of experience in the real estate industry and comes to GNFZ with a wealth of knowledge in building standards. An expert in both technical and market development, Shabbir has guided the transformation of a large real estate portfolio across commercial, retail, residential, and hospitality sector into a leading grid portfolio. At GNFZ, Shabbir plays a pivotal role by facilitating the seamless alignment of market demands with implementation strategies. Fueled by a profound passion for his work, Shabbir is dedicated to the principle of planning with purpose, actively contributing to the creation of a brighter future. Today, Shabbir will talk about integrating sustainable practices for net zero. So let's welcome Shabbir.
Thank you so much, Manisha. Thank you. So, like I mentioned before, making a building which saves a certain percentage of power and a certain percentage of water is not enough. That particular era has passed, and you can see that in the crazy kind of heat which this side of the world is facing, and even at other locations where crazy climatic patterns have not what we want for us to live for our children. India has actually got the highest temperature in the last 36 years. The temperature which we faced in this year was higher than what was there in 1988. So, having said that, it is not enough that we make buildings which are sustainable. We have to make buildings which are net zero. We have to move towards existing buildings towards net zero. We have to accelerate the process of solar power, where the percentage is considerable enough, to make a difference in India. So the government of India is very much on this. And like I mentioned, 2070 is our goal, intermediate targets. So we are kind of working on that at Global Network for Zero. So Global Network for Zero, we do projects across the world, including India, in terms of warehouses, data centers, commercial offices, homes, etc. There are 10 points which I would like to speak briefly before I show you a short video that would end my presentation. You need to work on 10 points if you are working towards net zero. One is, of course, the cost benefit analysis, right? So if you're going to sell net zero, it has to make business sense. So you need to work out that what is prioritizing for you in your cost benefit analysis. Then you need to move on incremental implementation. Don't try and do everything, on day one towards net zero. Make your net zero plan a 2-year plan, 5-year plan, depending on the requirements of the company and the organization, so that you can manage your cash flow and you can start with low cost, high impact changes. Then comes the engineering part, the efficiency and innovation. We have to leverage technology to find ways of both improving sustainability as well as operational efficiency. There are various tools, smart building technologies, automation, data analytics to optimize and reduce and waste and reuse it. Now, supply chain management is also very critical in terms of we have to work with suppliers to impress upon them that they need to work towards sustainable building to secure better pricing and improve the sustainability of the supply chain is what is the key factor in ensuring your, whether when you have the 3 types of net zero things which you have to do. Your employees have to be engaged and trained. Without that, it's not going to work. Your employee. So I had got an alert where it said that Lego stores, the Lego company which makes toys, they have made it mandatory that 10% of the salary of employees is going to come only if they show and adhere to the company's, net zero practices. So this is something which is, both and then there's a bonus of around 3% if they are able to exceed their expectations of net zero. So this is how employees have to be engaged. Obviously, they have to be trained in net zero so that they understand fully the concept. We need to measure that. So performance metrics are very important in terms of operational performance. The financial incentives are there. The financial incentives are there for green buildings, and I'm sure the government of India and the state governments and the municipalities are doing more than enough in terms of ensuring that green loans and green bonds are something which has taken off, and a lot of REIT commercial IT buildings have started using that. Then you need to communicate all this to the stakeholder. This is my eighth point here. So stakeholders are your customers, your loyalty people, obviously your employees. You need to provide transparency on how you're going to the benefits of a green building, so that you build the trust and support with the stakeholder. Anything new always has a risk, so the risk management strategies have to be in place so that you don't have regulatory penalties, by the government, or supply chain disruptions, or reputational damage. Last but not the least is continuous improvement. You have to regularly review your net zero strategies, and you have to ensure that your particular building or your organization stays net zero. And we need to be informed about how this is going to work. The best practices in sustainability will help. So to end, I would say by integrating these strategies, organizations can effectively balance sustainability with operational efficiency and profitability, right? We are in the business of doing business. It's not, we want to look at sustainability and not make money, because that's not going to work in the long run. So you have to have a win-win scenario for both the environment and the business.
GNFZ's platform helps existing buildings achieve net zero. Calculate your building's emissions, set targets, develop a plan, implement net zero strategies, and receive third-party net zero certification. Choose the standard method or framework that works best for you, with a simplified process and continuous support. One of the platform's key features is we connect clients with a partner who guides you through the process, all the way from setup to achieving and maintaining net zero. Find your place in the network. Sign up at platform.globalnetworkforzero.com to get started. You'll create your account and log in. Anyone can join GNFZ to support network members. Partners help clients use the platform and achieve certification. Reviewers are responsible for ensuring accuracy of project submissions, checking a project's documentation, and certifying a project's net zero status. Clients pursue net zero for buildings or portfolios. We encourage you to fill in your complete profile. You can also tell us how you'd like to support the network by selecting from the options. A first-time user would see this screen. Here's what the dashboard looks like. You'd see the list of projects you are already working on. The Overview tab gives you control to handle the entire process and request certification once you've completed the phases of initiate, implement, and sustain. Here's a project we filled in as an example. Here you would provide basic information about your project, like the gross area of the building, or tag it in a group if you're working on a portfolio. You can upload photos and a 3D walkthrough of your building, which is used to geolocate your project. Once you've filled everything in, you'd onboard team members to collaborate. You can also engage and select a partner from our database, but you have the option to choose your in-house team for implementation support if preferred. Next, you'll prepare a detailed inventory of your building's emission sources to calculate your Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. Start by mentioning the reporting period of the emissions. Typically, it would be 12 continuous months. By default, the initial reporting period you select will become the baseline period, and the emissions you compute for this period must be zeroed down. However, you can account for multiple reporting periods and select the baseline period you would like to benchmark. The default methodology we use to calculate your emissions is the GHG protocol. It's a widely used accounting framework. Here's a list of questions you need to answer regarding emissions reporting. Feel free to add more sources to the list and change the metrics to report data accurately for the reporting period. To provide a monthly breakup for the reporting period, you can do so with Control M. We have sourced the emission factors from credible sources to compute the emissions, which you can refer to by clicking the links. You can key in the emission factor yourself in case of any differences. You can now see the summary of your building's direct and indirect emissions for the respective reporting period. The next tab is Net Zero Plan, where you share information on annual or periodic targets for reducing emissions through carbon removal strategies and offsets, implementation timeline, supporting documents, challenges and lessons learned, technologies and best practice used or planned to be adopted. Now we have carbon offset and net zero milestone, where you share your carbon offsets budget and net zero milestones and track actual progress against the plan, which should match what is specified in the net zero plan. Please provide all relevant documents. Next is summary of emissions, where you'd see the computation of emissions reported in the assessment tab and how much the project has already reduced through carbon removal strategies reported in the net zero milestone and carbon offset tabs. And you can see the emissions to be avoided to get to net zero. You can download the summary as a PDF or spreadsheet, or create a link to share on social media. In the Project's Files tab, you can locate and manage documents starting from building information, followed by an inventory of emissions, net zero plan, carbon offset, and net zero milestones. Whatever tab you use to upload files gets directed here for us to manage the file upload centrally. Back at Overview, you can now handle the entire process and request your initial assessment, net zero plan, carbon offset, and net zero milestone certificates. And once you've completed all stages, your final net zero certification. Projects are GNFZ certified when they have reached zero carbon emissions. GNFZ requires projects to monitor and maintain their certification. Projects must submit annual data to verify their status. And in case of changes in emissions, a building will obtain an updated certification by going through the initiate and implement phases again. With respect to the review process, GNFZ offers independent third-party verified reviews by experts in the domain. Clients can access and download certificates in their project dashboard. Everything is recorded in the activity log, and there are notifications sent on any progress made. We also have resources to reinforce your knowledge about net zero and help you take charge in realizing certification for your project. GNFZ is actively onboarding clients, projects, and reviewers. Get started and sign up for the platform today.
So just one sentence, Manisha, before I wrap up. So we have done interesting projects in India where we have completed the net zero journey. We have done for the Maharaja Udaipur for his hotels. We have completed with the SRK. They are among the top 5 diamond, exporters in the world. We have completed projects in the US, in Israel. Nilesh and Anshul, they are actually a bunch of architects who have done wonderfully well in moving towards the net zero journey. So whether it is projects in Mexico, US, and Europe, China, so we bring that world expertise into India in terms of ensuring that the net zero practices in India are also world class. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabbir, for an intriguing submission on integrating sustainable practices for net zero.